Awesome. Fantastic. Buckle up for the most aggressive non-conflict talk you'll ever encounter in your life. I usually apologize to the camera team and the BSL team, but since everybody lived through Darkroom last night, fuck that. I'm only a 7 on the John scale, so fine. Assuming John is 10. All right, ladies and gentlemen, raise your hand if you've taken a writing class in the West. Okay, well, surprisingly few of you. All right, awesome. Someone who's got your hand up, tell me, just shout it out, please. What did they tell you was the heart of drama? Conflict, it's on the screen! Whoa, what a smart class. That's right. And unlike my last talk when I was here a couple of years ago, when I didn't have time to go into how much bullshit that is, I get to do that now in 40, hopefully 25 minutes. All right, so, awesome. How do we decentralize conflict and our narratives, and why that's important is what we're going to do. The I did a cheat thing is because that hyphen is doing a shit ton of work for me right now. Okay, we're talking about decentralization as opposed to completely getting rid of it. This is me. All right, basically the only thing you need to know about me is that I believe the same thing that Tavish Jackson does, which is narrative informs culture and policy, which also means that my work is my activism. All right, there's some other cool shit up there. I also believe, like fictional author Gareth Marenghi, that subtext is for cowards. It's real, it's a joke, but it's real. Okay, so let's talk about the problem. Okay, here's the news. If we've all been told and we've all been taught, and I've been guilty of teaching this as well in the past, that conflict is the heart of drama, what the fuck happens to our brains if we just suck down conflict all the fucking time? Here's some proof, whatever. We all know the fungibility of that word, but here you go, here's some facts. By the time we're 11 years old, we've accumulated 20,000 hours of screen time. Okay, that's all story, ladies and gentlemen. Doesn't matter how old you are, that is story, and if all the writers have been told this, sorry, I'm just pointing randomly at the person who shouted at me, you're not at fault, I apologize. If you've been told this, that's 20,000 hours of conflict you've enjoyed by the time you're 11, not counting the fact that you probably have shitty parents like the rest of us. Okay, that's an average of 5 hours a day. BBC recently released a thing that said that children are spending 7 hours a day on cell phones and tablets. All right? Well, how about this? From an actual scientific study that isn't Christopher Morrison's brain, look at this noise. This is fascinating. Those with high rates of TV viewing also found to have exaggerated perceptions of the frequency of violence in society. I wonder fucking why. All right? Decreased truthfulness in others, a greater likelihood to believe that criminal sentencing was race neutral, and furthermore, this study also believes the same thing that I do, that media helps set the agenda for political and cultural discussion. All right? Here's the real problem for writers, okay? The God-given, supposedly God-given, Aristotelian writer training, the 3-act structure, and its conflict as its center, and its second act, which is all rising tension, is purely individualistic in nature. I do not have time to go into first philosophies about Greek philosophy. That's a whole nother talk. One person in the room understands what I'm saying. That's all right. But it is connected to the foundational tenets of colonialism, imperialism, patriarchy, capitalism, and, everybody with me, white supremacy. All right, so it's because in these formats, only the individualistic hero can save the fucking day. All right, again, I don't have enough time this talk. If you want a deeper dive on that, see my last talk 2 years ago. All right, so, also, let's continue with the problem, shall we? All right, individualistic cultures reliably show higher rates of loneliness. We've all heard this right now, and what usually gets blamed? Social media. Yes? Yes. Okay? It's not the case, according to this study at least. Again, we all know studies, fungible weirdness, whatever. I'm cherry picking. I can cherry pick. Fuck you. All right? I'm not a scientist. All right? So, this is all a direct result of the story. Can is correlative to a direct result of all the stories that we take in. The question is, what business do you want to be in? You want to be in this business? Great. Keep doing, or if you believe in that stuff, keep doing what you're doing. You're doing great. All right? Otherwise, here's another perspective to take on. Eugene Nullman, brilliant Italian social scientist, from his book, How Popular Culture Destroys Our Political Imagination, asks this simple question. Why is it easier to imagine the end of the fucking world than the end of capitalism? After studying 700 pieces of media, he found 0 representations of non-capitalistic enterprises. He's got a wonderful list of 8 sort of like, people tried, but bullshit, okay? Isn't that fascinating? Why do we want to fucking see stories about where we are dead, where everything is dead, instead of seeing, maybe something that isn't capitalism? one of my personal opinions is this conflict thing has something to do with it. All right, here we go. Remember the simple law of nature. What you pay attention to grows. If you are a writer and you want to stay in conflict, congratulations. Your vibe's going to define your tribe, okay? You will stay that. That's what you will reap. That's what you will sow. Conflict creates trauma, not growth. The idea that we must torture our characters because that's how they psychologically become better people is insane. By that metric, I can walk up to her, punch her in the face, and be like, that's good for you. Yeah, just overcome the conflict. You'll be a better person. This is the exact logic and reasoning behind abusers and why we have a punitive justice system instead of a restorative justice system. Again, what business do you want to be in? Oh, I'm being aggressive as fuck. Sorry. So, what time are we at? Awesome. That's 5 minutes. You've survived 5 minutes. You only got 15 more of these. Okay. What's the opposite of conflict? Somebody tell me. Peace. No. Anybody else got a thought? Resolution. Interesting. No. Hey, motherfucker, ding, ding, ding. Magic golden dolphin to you. All right. Pretty much anything. Sorry, also not shitting on peace, and I'm not shitting on, what did you say? Resolution. I'm not shitting on those things. It's just, I have an agenda. Shocker. Have you figured that out yet? All right. So, in my opinion, the opposite of conflict, and if we're, remember, opposite is horribly binary, and I'm trying to drag us all away from binary, but for a second we'll live here, is cooperation, co-evolution. Co-anything, just about, really, okay? And here's the deal. Stories that live in that cooperation, where conflict is reduced, you already love this shit. Here's the big results, and I can prove it to you right now. This is actually proof. You love this? Yeah, you fucking do. Yeah, you fucking do. Who doesn't fucking love Totoro? If you don't love Totoro, I was about to say you're un-American, but you're not un-American. You're not even un-European. You're just not fucking human, all right? You love this? Okay, maybe you don't. I don't know, fine. You love this? I mean, come on. It's pretty good, right? You love this? Okay. Here's the deal, ladies and gentlemen. This is the news. I'm not a genius. I'm not bringing you some new information, okay? This shit exists. It already exists. It's making a bunch of money. These are what I call world beater IPs. What that simply means is they are not only making scabs of capitalistic money, they are influencing culture because we all know about them in this room, okay? Delightful. More proof. Okay, cozy literature movement. Anybody heard of this? Yep, okay, I got some yups. Okay, I promise if you speak up, I won't yell at you too much. All right, so, okay, cozy literature simply emphasizes comfort, warmth, community, and emotional healing. Its subgenres can include mysteries, fantasy, the grand dame of it all, romance, right? And the way to think about cozy literature, or cozy anything really, in terms of genre is low stakes. High emotion! Yes? Okay, good. Sorry, I can't say. All right, so it's safe but engaging. Conflict can exist, but resolution is the key. I'm pointing at the resolution guy. He's not looking at me. And emotional safety is prioritized. Hey, we're at a narrative conference. You guys like this phrase, character-driven. Amazing, right? Huzzah. Okay, now they also talk about nostalgic and pastoral settings, like libraries and cottages and stuff like that. I'm less obsessed with forcing this into a place, but you know, that's that. Legends and lattes, fantasy, cozy fantasy. TJ Clinton, haven't read his shit, I don't know what the fuck it is. And Becky Chambers' work, the Wayfair series, science fiction cozy. Fantastic shit. The stuff that I mentioned that I read, at least the other one I'm assuming is great. Let's talk bastard capitalist numbers, shall we? Okay, tiny little company called Penguin Random House, maybe you've heard of them, predicts that this genre is on the rise, okay? Which means they're gonna put money into it. Money. Wouldn't that be nice? Okay? Please remember the global romance market is worth $21 billion, only expecting to grow. You're also an asshole if you shit on romance, okay? Please don't. All right? It's one of the bases, it's one of the places that we start from when we're talking about this genre, this work, this kind of thought process. Please enjoy your romance literature. Okay. Cozy gaming. How about something a little closer to home for these people, for you people? Okay, raise your hand if you've heard this term before. Cozy gaming, yeah, awesome. Anybody consider themselves cozy gamers? Okay, rad, cool. You come up here and talk about it. Okay, all right, so here's the deal. They typically emphasize nonviolence, relaxation, gentle mechanics, and self-expression through over competition. Less pressure, for my favorite, forgiving gameplay loops or fail-forward loops. Again, buried in this, I promise, is not only going to be fantasy, I almost said. Well, fantasy all the time. But philosophy, but we're going to give you some real hard things to actually fucking do. All right? serene or comforting environments, blah, blah, blah. Again, environments I'm not so as obsessed with. But most importantly, the cozy tag in gaming as well as literature is kind of automatically more inclusive and accessible, okay? Because guess what conflict and tension does to people? Makes them unhappy, okay? It freaks them the fuck out, all right? And for some of us, did I just turn it out? No, I didn't. Okay, it can freak them the fuck out. And so once they enter into this space, they know where it's going, and it can resolve in ways that they feel, shock, surprise, comfortable with. More bastard capitalist numbers for cozy gaming, right? You like those numbers? 48 million? You like that? I like that. I don't have it, but I like it, okay? Spiritfarer, absolutely one of my favorite games of the last decade, right? That is a tiny Canadian company. I also have to acknowledge, I realized I was just like, hey, you don't like conflict, do you? Isn't it terrible? And I'm freaking some of you out already. It's okay, hold on, I promise I have my heart in the right place. I just have no other way to be. I apologize. Okay, how about that? 25 to 28 million in gross revenue. Tiny Canadian company called Thunder Lotus Games. Don't we love them? Huzzah. This stuff is making money. It is influencing culture. It is out there. So, again, it's not just me. All right, here we go. Time for, why can't I figure out what I'm trying to say here? Actual shit you can do. You know, concrete shit that you can have as writers and whatever else the fuck you are. All right, here we go. First of all, what you need to stop doing, okay? Say it with me, ladies and gentlemen. Say it with me, ladies and gentlemen. Fuck the hero's journey. Okay, not only is this based on a cherry-picked piece of social science, its universality is grossly overstated, and it is built through a white, male, specifically American, lens on humanity. Okay? It is not what we think it is. Has it been used and made a shit ton of money? Yep. But again, I ask you, what business do you want to be in? Also, Joseph Campbell taught at a fucking women's college for 40 years and decided women didn't fit in his thing. Huh? Fuck that. All right, that'll come back in a second. Because here it is. If you insist on journeying, and I'm not going to go into this because there are books who are better at this than me, go on the heroine's journey, okay? Maureen Murdoch, who's the one that coined that phrase, was an actual student of Joseph Campbell who literally walked up onto his stage and was like, what about the women? And then he said a bunch of bullshit. All right, she was like, I don't like that. Here's a book. Okay? Here's the deal. If you are a writer and you really want to dig into the heroine's journey, I recommend Gail Carriger's work. In the middle, I haven't read the third one, but it's got the same title, so I'm sure it's fucking cool. Okay. Let's go to a structure that you can actually use. All right, you can tell producers or you can tell your writing team what you're trying to execute here. This is the Kisho Tenketsu. It's kind of having a moment right now, especially if you're writers. Raise your hand if you've heard about this. Yeah. Okay, you know, you're also in games. If you're in the games world and you don't know anything about Mario and Kisho Tenketsu, I hate platformers and even I know that shit exists, so what the fuck. All right, so it's simply a 4-beat structure. The motherfuckers that say that it's a 4-act structure, please flush down the toilet as well. That is Western Aristotelian thought. Fuck it, okay? You know, it's not an act. It doesn't have to be an act, all right? It doesn't have to be structured like an act. It's just a moment, okay? Which is simply introduction, development, twist, and resolution. This is a graphic from Milo Chow. Brilliant dude. Follow him on Instagram. Fuck Instagram. LinkedIn. Fuck LinkedIn too, but whatever, you know what I'm saying. Okay, here's some more context of it. Here's what I'm going to tell you as writers. Western writers, beware of the middle two words, which are develop and twist, okay? Develop, because if you Google this shit, you're gonna get a bunch of Western things that look like the Story Mountain, male orgasmic Story Mountain thing that looks like you have to raise tension and all this bullshit. It's just a bunch of white guys making a graphic, okay? Your development is just a development of anything you've introduced before. Whether you're developing characters, you can develop the color purple, you can develop the trees in your story, whatever you wanna do, but develop it, okay? The twist is not a screenwriting book 180 reversal kind of twist. It can be. It's not necessarily like an M. Night Shyamalan thing. It just means you are introducing an unknown element to the story that was not present to begin with. Deus, your machina, all you fucking want. It fits in this world, okay? Things from outside the story world intrude on the story world, and your characters have to deal with it, or don't, because then you have a resolution. Let's look at an example of them. I wrote this. This is drawn by the brilliant Waylon Bacon. Please follow him on something that doesn't make you upset. Introduction. Development. Twist. Resolution. Nope. Hey. Okay, I don't remember how to curtsy anymore. All right. No conflict, no rising stakes, maybe no stakes at all, utter satisfaction, more questions than answers, it's okay. It's a Kisho Tenketsu. All right? This is a resource I cannot go into because they haven't released it yet, but please put it on your radar. The World Builders Incubator, Wheel of Possibilities. Gwen Lowe doing fucking genius work where she's talking to major organizations and giving writers specific real-world solutions to insane real-world problems like, tiny things like climate change and fast fashion. You can go to the website, put the problem in that you want to focus on, and it will give you real-world solutions that are happening right now. It is not released yet. Sorry, so look for it. All right, here we go. Writing solutions to decentralized conflict. Okay, what else can drive your story besides conflict? Any of this shit. Any of it. Just replace your conflict with any of this and see what happens to your story. See what happens to your characters. All right? Sorry, we're moving on. Okay? Because that's just a list. Let's borrow from some other cultures. Yes, please be aware of cultural appropriation. No time to go into that shit. It's not shit. It's brilliant and it's wonderful. Please read Writing the Other by Nishi Shaw if you want questions on that. But assuming this is all on the table, for your games, let's look at the Sufi tale of the blind man and the elephant. 7 blind men are touching different parts of an elephant. They don't know what the fuck they're touching until they get together and they talk about it. And they're like, oh, it's a fucking elephant. So what does that mean for gaming? Well, what about the idea that you build puzzles that build perspective instead of solutions, right? Conferencing together to understand what comes next, as opposed to, I fucking win by finishing the puzzle, all right? Skipping over a few, going to indigenous cooperative narratives. Raise your hand if you hate fetch quests. Okay, that was just me, 2 hands. Okay, all right, some of you seem to like them, you're weird. But that's fine, like I'm normal. All right, obviously take that with a grain of salt. What happens if you flip a fetch quest, or heaven forbid, have a fetch quest actually have any meaning by ruining the ecology? Hey, go take all of the plants out of this one area. You don't think that's gonna help or hurt the place? Have it have a consequence, or reverse that shit. Hey, why don't you go put these plants back and see what happens? All right, there's some knowledge. All right, here we go. Subverting the win-loss condition is also something I would suggest that you think about. Please offer different truths for losing paths, multiple cannons instead of a reset loop, okay? Design games where winning means mutual survival, shared meaning, or collective something that I forgot to write and I have no idea what I'm talking about. But like probably collective meaning, maybe that's what I meant, all right? And leveling up meaning understanding or forgiveness. You can gamify forgiveness. Just a thought. Instead of a fucking combat skill. Okay, I really want to skip to the bottom here because this is one I'm obsessed with lately, which is begin with clear objectives that dissolve or mutate as a player's awareness expands. You also love this, because you remember this. It was traumatizing, but you remember it. Dear God, don't make me do it again in Shadow of the Colossus, yes? And if you felt good about murdering those things, I don't like you, okay? Also, big shout out, and also showing how flexible I am, to a game that's in the fucking conference right now. Fucking love this! I adore this piece, okay? But you're like, but Christopher, it's literally all conflict. Is it? How'd you feel after the 3rd time you made that thing go splat, right? It's at least recontextualizing the conflict, recontextualizing the violence, and making you think about not only what you're doing, but what do games do in general when we do endless violent loops, okay? Which is basically doing this first thing, which is decentralize your player. It sounds terrifying, but it's not, I promise. Just think of it this way. Instead of having a protagonist, you have a participant, which is life. None of you are the hero of your own story, by the way. Fuck that, Jesus Christ. This is also one of the things I can't stand. The idea that the hero's journey is now a therapeutic model. Holy Christ, you know what you are? You're part of a collective. You're part of a family. Whether you like that family or not, you're part of a found family. And if you are not, I'm sorry, I promise somebody's coming along. It gets better. I promise it gets better. We're out here, you're already in this found family, yeah? That's being a participant, that is not being a hero, okay? Here's the deal. Success metrics, track world states. I like these last 3 because it gets into your players' heads a little bit more in an interesting way. Replace your win screen with a reflective screen. I know this feels like touchy-feely, but it will make them think, hey, what the fuck did you just do, man? Instead of, you win, right? Let them think, right? Replace retry with continue differently. And here's my favorite. Let the credits roll in the middle of the game. Why? Because, here's the word, teleology, okay? Teleological thinking. Anybody give any 2 shits about this giant word? Here's the deal. It just simply means the West is obsessed with the end. We think the end justifies the means, or more importantly in story, it justifies the rest of the story, and if the ending doesn't somehow attach to the rest of the story, you have failed. That is a lens on which to view the world. That's all that is. It is not a rule, and it's also, once again, not your life. Would you like to judge the rest of your life by the last 30 seconds that you took your breath? I hate to tell you this, I've been at the bedside of 4 different loved ones, and they're not thinking that shit. I hope not, at least. Good God. They're on their own journey, okay? Your stories don't have to be obsessed with the end, okay? Also look up the word zootology. I don't have time for that. Shout out to Dr. Yanoi, who's in the crowd. Okay, yes, all right. So this seems like a weird time to start introducing definitions, but here's the deal. You are now about to enter Christopher Morrison's pure brain. I apologize for the ride, okay? The rest of this stuff, hopefully, not hopefully, has been much smarter people than me and other cultures. This is my take on the answer to the simple question of what the fuck do we replace conflict with? My definition of conflict is direct opposition, as signed off by Rising Stakes and Rising Action, okay? Got that? Huzzah. These are the 5 conflicts you were probably taught in your little Western writing class. Who gives a shit, all right? Because here's what you're going to replace it with. You're going to replace conflict with tension, okay? Here's the deal. A lot of people are like, this is the same thing. No, it's not, all right? Because if conflict is direct opposition, tension is questions. Okay? I just ask you a question, and immediately you're interested. What are you doing? Why are we doing this? Who the fuck are you listening to right now? Right? So let's look at Morrison's 5 tensions, okay, that you can replace things with. How/why did they do that? None of this will make sense as word salad out loud. What are we /what is it? Who am I /who are they? When will the next thing happen? Where is /are we this going physically or philosophically? All right, let's do a little bit more of a deep dive so we can understand how to maybe implement these things. So once again, instead of reaching for the conflict or reaching for a rising tension or reaching for a beat that's used full of violence, reach for a question. Here's what these things give you as possibilities. When you work with why did they do that or why do they do that, immediately you are messing with understanding and motives. You increase your empathy in your player, in your world, okay? And more importantly, you have to understand the steps as opposed to the end, okay? Immediately this opens this up for you. It's instant world building because if you gotta have an answer to why, you've gotta build the world and construct the society in which that exists, all right? And it cries out for multiple perspectives as opposed to just one, which is that individualistic thing we were talking about way back at the beginning, if you can remember anything I've said, because I've said a lot. Okay, what is it? What are we? Unavoidable deep dive once you start dealing with this, all right? Once you start dealing with the question is the driving force of your story. As long as you avoid the binary, I haven't shit on the binary nearly enough in this talk, but there you go, there's one. Okay, it is an active exploratory actions. It just implies that your players have to be super active and explore every little piece of your world. Lots of perspectives is a must. Again, instant pluriversal storytelling, yet another word, you can look it up, who cares? Who am I, who are they? Immediate access to philosophical questions and answers if you are interested in that kind of exploration in your games, okay? This question drives you directly into that field, all right? In a much more interesting way than psychological-based storytelling where you're trying to understand motives. So everybody understands this difference between those two things. Again, don't have time to totally dig into that, but think about it. Identity becomes front and center, lots of player immersion, lots of identification from the player. This benefits from a sociological storytelling perspective as opposed to the psychological storytelling perspective. The way to think about that really quick, also don't have time for it. Psychological is basically inside out. We understand the player's motives, why they do this. Oh, he got beaten as a child and now he's a bad person. We all know that's lazy, but it is what basically passes for storytelling in a lot of places. All right? Sociological-based storytelling says, here's the society and the context in which this character exists, and because we understand that, we understand what the characters are doing. Yeah? Delightful. Benefits from I just said that. All right, moving on. When will the next thing happen? Now, this seems like all storytelling, if you're quote-unquote doing it right. Boy, do I hate that phrase. But like, what if you make that the whole point? You get anticipation. Right, thank you, Rocky Horror Picture Show. Okay, so that was also for 3 people in the crowd. Okay, fun uses of time. This opens up time. All of these things get to play with time in terms of flashbacks, all of that kind of stuff. You get to break cause and effect in a real interesting way when you start using this as your central motivation. Central motivation, terrible word. As your central driver of your story as opposed to conflict. This immediately allows the outside of your world into the story. Again, the story's bigger than your players. Again, Deus the Machina out the fuck out of everything. Go for it. Earthquakes, fucking ants from Mars, fucking, and that could be ants or, I don't know how do you sign ants? Like ants, like a person. Yeah, that's ants, like the female ant of my family.
Oh, aunt.
Aunt. I am suitably accent shamed. All right, I deserve it. It's okay. There you go. Ants from Mars. Either ants from Mars or ants from Mars is why I was asking. All right, there we go. Okay, I'm an asshole. There we go. All right, moving on. Where is this going? Really good question. Fantastically timed, like I meant that to happen. All right, here we go. Exploration, again, remember that is not just location, it is also motivation, right? I just shit on motivation, but if you are really insisting on motivation, this is a great question to use. All right, great tension to use, and it's way better than if you make another goddamn game or story about an amnesiac character that wakes up and doesn't know who they are or where they are, I'm gonna come to your house and we're gonna have a nice cup of tea and a conversation, okay? About how much I hate that shit, okay? It's just white male fantasy, wake up and you know 5 languages and you can kick the shit out of everybody you know, right? Okay, Jason Bourne can go down a toilet. Okay, all right, whatever. Just please stop. But if you insist, this is a great way to obfuscate that. Jesus Christ. I apologize that I used that word. I feel like an asshole. Anyway, this is a great way to hide that from your players, okay? You can hide a piece of information and figure out where we're going this way from your actual quote-unquote main character if you're using that. Less known features here become a bug instead of a feature. Surprise can be a key factor with this question, or not. Please see all of Cozy. All of Cozy is, this is what we're doing, this is where we're going, we have arrived, okay? And this is a great way to manipulate your Cozy stories, okay? Manipulate, also a terrible word. Ladies and gentlemen, all attentions promote these things, okay, as far as I'm concerned. Again, please talk to me, yell at me later. This is a new thought for me. This is literally a new thought for me. I'm thinking about these things, but I think this is really helpful. It is, at least for my brain. And sorry, like I said, you're in my brain for the next 2.5 minutes. Okay, my favorite here is it seems to front load empathy way better than conflict does to me. And most importantly, I hope I can touch this and not break it. Context, okay? All of this is about increasing context. Conflict suppresses context almost universally, okay? Especially in a 3-act structure, a 5-act structure, whatever fucking structure you want. Anything that's based in Aristotelian logic is going to suppress the context because the whole point is to isolate your hero. And I don't give a fuck if it's the Avengers and there's 20 of them, it's better, but it's to isolate them because they're the only ones that can solve the problem. And if you want to move through your life that way, more power to you. But man, I need my peeps to help me out, all right? If you like anything that I've had to say, please talk to and find these people or read their shit. They're smarter than me and probably less aggressive, all right? So, thanks for coming to my TED rant. That's me. Couple minutes. Tell me, talk to me.
We've got a couple of minutes, so we'll probably fit a couple of questions in before the next talk, so... Of course it's the far side of the list.
Get your steps in, baby.
So, you've been very aggressive in your talk, so I'm going to be very aggressive too.
Do it!
I think it's fucking irresponsible to hail the cozy games as the future without acknowledging the overlap between the cozy aesthetic and the trapped wife shit. Because it's exactly the same thing. Let's not go to the good old times where we will live together in a small village and nothing bad happened. Have you ever lived in a small village? It's shit.
Yeah.
Let's replace all the conflict. We don't fight monsters here. Let's replace it with grinding. Let's replace it with toiling and doing the same thing over and over and over, and then you're gonna get a reward at the end, like a +1 friendship point. This is just capitalism in a nice coat.
Yeah. Absolutely. Fair enough. I think there's a lot of perspectives to be had, absolutely, and I totally agree the trad wife shit is nonsense, and I totally agree that the glamorizing or the one thing I definitely don't want to do is some past that existed, or more importantly, some kind of tribalism is better than whatever the fuck you want to compare it to, science or modern whatever. That is a 100% valid point, and I think it can be weaponized that way. One of the things that I like about it is that it does allow me to enter into a space where I just know what's going to happen, right? And the accessibility of that is the point that I'm interested in at that point. Now, absolutely, if a game is glamorizing something that never existed or is trying to convince you that your life is shit and you should really go back and live in a tree, it's not my favorite. That would not be the way I would like to think about it. But absolutely, I think, but fair enough. And it doesn't sound like that. I think that's something that absolutely we can all keep in mind. Absolutely.
Okay, one more and then we'll switch off if we've got another question. Or if not, we can...
We're not yet.
Oh,
Going here.
no, right there.
There it is.
Cross-selected this again. Marvellous.
I wanted to ask, how does the concept of conditions of defeat in video games enter in this particular idea of letting go of the binary systems of winning and losing and stuff like that? Because once we let go of a winning condition, then we, in a way, either have to completely embrace a losing condition or also completely remove a losing condition.
I would suggest that when you are, again, this to me is more important to that question, right? Are you at least, if you are insisting on having a real strong binary win-lose, right? Can you build something that builds the perspective of your player, right? Whether that's a perspective on the world or perspective on what you want to say about the world, right? Does that make some sense, right? So, look, we all know binary choices, just like race, is something we all know is bullshit, but we all have to live under the problem of it, right? Does that make sense? So this may not be something you want to address directly with your game, but if you're building it into, you're decentralized the conflict, and you said the answers in my game reside more in some kind of cooperation, right? Whether that's a win-loss condition or not, and it builds a perspective, we're starting to move, you're starting to shift real fundamental concepts and ideas about what people expect from their games and what people expect from their stories, right? Does this make sense? And again, don't take my word for it. Go back and find, go rewatch Totoro, go find these stories that exist out there and see what they're doing and how do they motivate people and how do they actually address these issues, these base issues. Does that answer your question to some degree? Awesome.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.